When the 911 call came through at 2:47 a.m., the dispatcher heard sobbing. Heavy, breathless sobbing. He's not breathing. There's so much blood. Please, God, please help me. Police arrived at the suburban home in Columbus, Ohio within 6 minutes. What they found would haunt them for years. A man's body on the kitchen floor, surrounded by a pool of blood that had seeped into the grout between the tiles. 17 stab wounds. His wife, Maria, sat in the corner, rocking back and forth, her hands covered in red. On the counter, untouched, was a half-eaten anniversary cake. It was their 15th. But when detectives started searching the house, they found something that changed everything. Hidden in a shoebox at the back of her closet were letters. Love letters, not from her husband, from women. And tucked between them, a medical file with 3 letters that would unravel 15 years of lies. HIV positive. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was the ending of a double life that had been crumbling for over a decade. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Maria Bennett was the kind of woman everyone wanted to know. She baked cookies for the church bake sale every Sunday. She volunteered at her kids' school, chaperoned field trips, hosted neighborhood barbecues. Her husband, David, was a mechanical engineer, steady and dependable, the kind of man who mowed the lawn every Saturday and never missed a parent-teacher conference. They lived in a quiet cul-de-sac where kids rode bikes until the streetlights came on and neighbors waved from their driveways. To everyone who knew them, they were the model family. Married young, stayed faithful, raised 2 beautiful children. Maria's friends at church would often say, "If my marriage was half as strong as yours, I'd be blessed." But beneath the surface of potluck dinners and family photos, Maria was suffocating. Not because David was cruel, not because he neglected her, but because she had been lying to him since the day they said, "I do." And the weight of that lie was about to crush them both. She once told a friend, in a moment of unguarded honesty, "Sometimes I feel like I'm living someone else's life." That friend laughed it off, but Maria wasn't joking. It started 5 years into their marriage. Maria had just given birth to their 2nd child, and the exhaustion was overwhelming. The sleepless nights, the endless diapers, the feeling that she had disappeared into motherhood and could never come back. That's when she reconnected with Clara Hayes, a woman she'd known in college. They met for coffee one afternoon, and Clara looked exactly the same, confident, sharp-witted, unapologetically herself. They started meeting more often. Coffee turned into lunch. Lunch turned into long drives where they'd talk for hours. And then one night, parked under a streetlight in an empty lot, Clara leaned over and kissed her. Maria didn't pull away. For the first time in years, she felt alive, but she also felt terrified. She couldn't be this person. Not in her world, not in her church, not in her marriage. So she did what felt safest. She lied. She told David she'd joined a women's Bible study group that met on Thursday nights. He believed her. Why wouldn't he? And for the next 3 years, Maria lived 2 lives. On Sundays, she was the devoted wife and mother. On Thursdays, she was Clara's lover. She compartmentalized everything, her guilt, her desire, her fear. She told herself it wasn't hurting anyone. She told herself she could stop any time. But the body doesn't forget, and it doesn't forgive. Maria went in for a routine checkup in the spring of 2012. She'd been feeling run down, losing weight, getting sick more often than usual. The doctor ordered blood work just to be safe. When the results came back, Maria was sitting alone in the clinic's waiting room, flipping through a magazine she wasn't reading. The nurse called her name, and something in her tone made Maria's stomach drop. In the exam room, the doctor sat down across from her and folded his hands. "Maria, your test came back positive for HIV." The words didn't make sense at first. She stared at him, waiting for him to say something else, to explain that it was a mistake, a mix-up with someone else's file. But he just kept talking. Viral load, CD4 count, treatment options. "You'll need to inform any sexual partners," he said gently. "This is serious." Maria nodded, but inside her world was collapsing. She couldn't tell David. If she told him, he'd know. He'd know everything, the affairs, the lies, the years of deception. She'd lose her children, her home, her entire life. So she made a choice that would haunt her forever. She said nothing. She filled the prescriptions under a fake name at a pharmacy 2 towns over. She hid the pills in an old tampon box in the back of the bathroom cabinet, and she prayed that somehow, some way, it would all just go away. But diseases don't disappear, and neither do secrets. Within weeks, Clara found out. Maria had been distant, canceling plans, making excuses. One night, Clara confronted her in the parking lot after one of their meetings. "What's going on with you?" Maria broke down. She told her everything, the diagnosis, the fear, the shame. Clara's face went pale. She got tested the next week, negative, but the damage was done. "I can't do this anymore," Clara said, her voice shaking. "I can't be part of this lie. You need to tell your husband. You need to get help." But Maria didn't. Instead, she doubled down. She convinced herself that if she just kept taking the medication, if she just stayed careful, everything would be fine. She started going to a different church on the other side of town, somewhere no one knew her, somewhere she could breathe without feeling watched. And that's where she met Jasmine Cole. Jasmine was 26, a free spirit who worked at a nonprofit and wore her hair in long braids and didn't care what anyone thought of her. She was everything Maria had always wanted to be, but never could. They started talking after a service one Sunday. Jasmine made her laugh, made her feel seen. And before long, Maria was back in the same pattern, meeting in secret, lying to David, living in 2 worlds. Except this time, Jasmine knew about the HIV from the start, and she didn't care, or at least, that's what she said. Jasmine became an addiction. Maria couldn't stay away. They'd meet at cheap motels on the outskirts of town, places where no one asked questions. Jasmine would text her in the middle of the day, and Maria would drop everything. She started lying more, becoming sloppy, forgetting what excuses she'd already used. David began to notice. The late nights, the new phone she wouldn't let him touch, the way she flinched when he kissed her. One evening, he sat her down at the kitchen table and asked her directly, "Are you seeing someone else?" Maria's heart pounded, but she looked him in the eyes and said, "No, I'm just stressed. Work's been hard. The kids are a lot. I'm fine." He wanted to believe her, so he did, but deep down, he knew something was wrong, and Maria knew it too. The problem was, she couldn't stop. Jasmine had become more than a lover. She'd become a mirror, reflecting back all the things Maria was too afraid to face about herself. And when Maria tried to pull away, Jasmine wouldn't let her. "You think you can just walk away from me?" Jasmine said one night, her voice cold. "I know everything about you, Maria. Everything. Your husband doesn't know, does he?" Maria felt her blood run cold. "What are you saying?" Jasmine smiled. "I'm saying you better keep me happy, or everyone's going to find out who you really are." The blackmail started small, $100 here, a few hundred there. Jasmine said she needed help with rent, with bills, with her car payment. Maria drained her savings. She started taking cash out of the joint account, hoping David wouldn't notice. But he did. "Where's the money going?" he asked one night, holding up a bank statement. Maria stammered, "I've been helping a friend. She's going through a hard time." "What friend?" Maria couldn't answer. The lies were piling up, suffocating her. She barely slept. She'd wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, convinced that today was the day everything would fall apart. And then, one afternoon, David did something Maria never expected. He hired a private investigator. He didn't tell her. He just wanted to know the truth. And within 2 weeks, the investigator had everything. Photos of Maria and Jasmine at a motel, receipts from restaurants, text messages. But there was one thing the investigator didn't find: the HIV diagnosis. That secret Maria had buried deeper than anything else. And when David finally confronted her with the evidence, throwing the photos on the kitchen table, Maria did something she'd never done before. She told the truth, or at least part of it. "I've been seeing someone," she whispered. "A woman. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." David stared at her, his face a mixture of disbelief and heartbreak. "How long?" "Years." He walked out of the room, and for the first time Maria realized she might actually lose everything. David moved into the guest room. They barely spoke. The kids knew something was wrong but didn't ask. Maria thought maybe, just maybe, they could work through it. She'd go to therapy. She'd cut off Jasmine. She'd be honest from now on. But then, 2 weeks later, David was looking for a box of old tax documents in Maria's closet. And that's when he found the shoebox. Inside were the letters from Clara and Jasmine, and beneath them, folded neatly, was a lab report. HIV positive. Date of diagnosis: April 2012. David sat on the floor, staring at the paper, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. She'd known for over a decade, and she'd never told him, never warned him, never gave him a choice. He got tested the next day. The wait for results felt like an eternity. When the doctor called, David closed his eyes and held his breath. Negative. By some miracle, he was negative. But the betrayal was complete. It wasn't just the affairs. It wasn't just the lies. It was the fact that she'd put his life at risk, knowingly, for years. He filed for divorce the following week, and when Maria found the papers on the kitchen counter, something inside her snapped. Maria begged. She cried. She called David at work, sent him dozens of texts, showed up at his office. "Please, we can fix this. I'll do anything. Please don't leave me." But David was done. "You almost killed me, Maria. Do you understand that? You could have given me HIV, and you said nothing." "I was scared," she sobbed. "I didn't know how to tell you. You had 15 years to figure it out." He told her he was moving out at the end of the month. He was taking the kids. He'd already spoken to a lawyer. Maria felt like she was drowning. Everything she'd built, every lie she'd told to protect her perfect life, it was all crumbling. And the worst part? She had no one to blame but herself. Jasmine stopped answering her calls. Clara had moved to another state years ago. Her friends at church had started whispering. Even her own children looked at her differently. She was completely, utterly alone. And in that loneliness, something dark began to grow. A thought she couldn't shake. If she couldn't have this life, this family, maybe no one should. Maria asked David to come over one last time. "Let's have dinner," she said. "Just the two of us. One last time, please." David hesitated, but he agreed. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was nostalgia. Maybe he just wanted closure. He came over on a Thursday night. Maria had cooked his favorite meal, pot roast with mashed potatoes. She'd even baked a cake. It sat on the counter, untouched, like a monument to a marriage that no longer existed. They sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the same table where they'd had 1,000 meals, celebrated birthdays, argued about bills, lived an entire life. "I'm sorry," Maria said quietly, "for all of it. I know that doesn't mean anything now, but I need you to know." David nodded. "I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix this, Maria. You lied to me for 15 years. You put my life in danger. I can't just forgive that. I never meant to hurt you. But you did." There was a long silence, and then David said the words that broke her. "I don't love you anymore, Maria. I don't even know who you are." Something inside Maria shattered. She stood up slowly, walked to the drawer by the sink, and pulled out a knife. David didn't see it at first. He was looking down at his plate, and when he finally looked up, it was too late. The first stab hit him in the shoulder. David gasped, stumbling backward, knocking over his chair. "Maria, what are you—" She didn't stop. She couldn't stop. Years of fear, shame, rage, everything she'd been holding inside came pouring out. She stabbed him again, and again, and again, 17 times. When it was over, David lay on the kitchen floor, his eyes staring up at the ceiling, lifeless. Maria dropped the knife. Her hands were shaking, her clothes were soaked in blood. She looked around the kitchen, at the pot roast still sitting on the stove, at the cake on the counter, at the man she'd spent half her life with, now dead at her feet. And then she picked up the phone and called 911. "He attacked me," she said, her voice trembling. "I had to defend myself. Please, you have to help me. He's not breathing." The dispatcher stayed on the line, asking questions, but Maria barely heard her. She just kept staring at David's body, wondering how it had come to this, how a lie that started so small had ended in so much blood. When detectives arrived, they immediately knew something was off. The blood spatter patterns didn't match Maria's story. The wounds were too many, too deep, too deliberate. This wasn't self-defense. This was rage. They found the shoebox in her closet, the letters, the medical records. They interviewed Clara and Jasmine, both of whom confirmed the affairs and the HIV diagnosis. Slowly, the full picture came together. Maria had been living a double life for 15 years. She'd hidden a deadly disease from her husband. She'd been blackmailed. And when her world started to collapse, she'd chosen murder over truth. The media picked up the story almost immediately. Headlines screamed, "Church mom's secret life ends in murder." HIV-positive wife kills, husband after affair exposed. Maria's face was everywhere. People who'd known her, neighbors, church friends, parents from her kids' school, were interviewed on the news. "I never would have guessed," one woman said. "She seemed so normal, so kind." But behind closed doors, the truth was far darker, and now everyone could see it. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Maria's defense attorney argued that she'd been living in a state of extreme emotional distress, that years of hiding her identity had caused a psychological break. They brought in experts who testified about the stigma surrounding HIV, the pressure of living a double life, the trauma of internalized shame. But the prosecution painted a different picture. They showed the jury the crime scene photos, the 17 stab wounds, the lack of defensive injuries on Maria, the premeditated dinner, the cake, the calm 911 call. This was not a woman defending herself, the prosecutor said. This was a woman who chose murder over accountability. Clara testified, tearful and shaking, describing the affair and the moment Maria told her about the diagnosis. Jasmine testified too, admitting to the blackmail but insisting she never thought Maria was capable of violence. And then Maria took the stand. She cried. She apologized. She said she didn't remember everything from that night, that it was all a blur. "I loved him," she said, her voice breaking. "I never wanted this." But the jury didn't believe her. After 2 days of deliberation, they returned with a verdict. Guilty of second-degree murder. Maria showed no emotion when the verdict was read. She just sat there, staring straight ahead, as if she'd already left her body. She was sentenced to 25 years to life. Maria is currently serving her sentence at a women's correctional facility in Ohio. Her children, now adults, have refused to visit her. They've changed their last names. They don't speak about her publicly. In prison, Maria's health has deteriorated. The HIV progressed to AIDS due to inconsistent treatment. She spends most of her days in the medical wing, alone. She writes letters to her children that are never answered. She's tried to reach out to Clara, to Jasmine, to anyone from her old life, but no one writes back. In a rare interview from prison, Maria said, "I didn't kill David because I hated him. I killed him because I couldn't face what I'd become. I thought if I could just make it all stop, the lies, the fear, the shame, I could finally breathe. But all I did was destroy everything I ever loved." Her voice was flat, emotionless, as if she'd told the story so many times it no longer belonged to her. David's family started a foundation in his name to raise awareness about HIV disclosure laws and intimate partner violence. They've fought for legislation that would make it a felony to knowingly expose a partner to HIV without consent. They've never spoken to Maria, and they never will. So here's the question. Was Maria a monster, or was she a woman crushed under the weight of a secret she should have never had to carry alone? Was this murder, or was it the inevitable end of a life built entirely on fear? The truth is, it's probably both. Maria made choices. Terrible, selfish, destructive choices. But she also lived in a world that told her she couldn't be who she was. And instead of finding the courage to live authentically, she chose deception. And deception, when left unchecked, doesn't just hurt the people around you. It destroys you from the inside out, until there's nothing left but rage and regret. David Bennett didn't deserve to die. His children didn't deserve to lose their father. And Maria didn't deserve to lose herself. But all of it happened anyway. Because lies, no matter how small they start, always grow, and eventually they consume everything. Let us know what you think in the comments. Was justice truly served? Could this have been prevented? And if this story moved you, hit the like button and subscribe for more gripping real-life stories every week, because the truth is always stranger and sadder than fiction.